Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the Wise Practice podcast. I am looking forward to introducing you to Kris Jones, who is I met through a friend, Uriah Guilford. Most of you know him through Productive Therapist. I was excited to get this connection. So let me tell you a little bit about Kris, and then we're going to jump into talking more about your brand, your website, and storytelling. So, in a world where most business owners are drowning in marketing tactics, Kris discovered something shocking. It's a single, well crafted story to replace all your marketing and double your sales. As the founder of Red Door Stories and a hand selected mentee of StoryBrand's Donald Miller, Kris has perfected the art of turning expertise into irresistible messages that sell. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, Whitney, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, so let's kind of jump into maybe sharing a little bit about what Red Door Stories is,
Mhm.
and then we can kind of talk about this story, and I'm sure I'm gonna have tons of questions for you.
Yeah, so Red Door Stories, we're based in Portland, Oregon. I've been doing this work. I'm essentially a solopreneur. I have a very tiny team that I adore. Been doing this work over 2 decades now, really helping business owners, practice owners, anyone who's self-employed and serving clients tell a compelling and powerful story about their brand, their business, and one that really resonates with ideal clients. So that is really the work I do. The clients that come to me love their work. They're passionate about what they do. They adore and genuinely want to help their clients. But they're so close to their own business and their own brilliance that they really struggle to talk about it in a clear and compelling way. So I like to say, every business owner is really so close to themselves that they're stuck inside of a bottle. When you try and write for yourself, it's like you're stuck inside this bottle trying to read the label that can only be read from outside. So I
Mm.
come in, I read your label, I find the golden thread that is your story, and we tell it together. And then we integrate that story into every area of your business across every client touch point. First, we begin with your website because I believe your website should be your most powerful selling tool. And then we take that same story and we integrate it everywhere, literally. Social media, on your emails. We figure out what you're going to say in person. But the gift of all of this is that you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. Really, we come up with one core brand story, and that's the one story that you tell everywhere. And it takes so much off your plate when you don't have to keep figuring out new words to talk about what you do. And your story, when it's done well, when it's really compelling, it works a lot like an accordion. So it contracts and it expands. We've got more real estate on your website, so we can go deeper into your story there. But if you're in a social media profile, we still need to tell a story. We just have to do it in 150 characters. And then I write my clients a video script because video helps get clients. It's a really powerful tool. So the video script length would be kind of like in the middle of that accordion. So if you're listening, I'm contracting my hands and expanding them just like an accordion, and your story thankfully works the same way. So you can keep using it over and over. And the more you repeat it, the more you grow, the more traction you gain in your business, and ultimately you make more money, get more clients, and become much more profitable.
There's so many directions we could go here. My heart is like loving it. Okay, so I think I want to take it back a good bit because I'm thinking about audience members, and when we talk about story brand, because you use the concepts of story brand, right, in your work. Can
I
you
do.
give them a little snippet of what is story brand and how that works?
So pretty much everyone's heard about the hero's journey. It's been around from the beginning of time. That the hero's journey is the formula for every story. So every movie you've ever read, every movie you've ever watched, every book you've ever read, any story you've ever heard always begins with a hero a character or a hero, I like to call them, who has a problem they don't know how to solve. And this is what pulls our brains into the story as humans. When a story begins with a hero that has a problem, we can't help but engage. And we stay engaged until we know that problem has been solved. So everybody is sat down to watch a show on Netflix, and then 6 hours later, you're like, oh my gosh, one more episode.
Yeah.
It has the power to pull us in a way, well, not only to pull us in, but to grab our attention and pull us in and keep us engaged and reach the deepest part of our hearts and our emotions. As humans, we're really wired for story. We've been gathering around the fireside from the beginning of time. If story is so effective in a movie theater, in a book, on your TV, why wouldn't we use that hero's journey in our own messaging, in our own business? It is truly timeless. Just go on Instagram for 5 minutes and there are 18 different marketing rabbit holes you could go down. And I've been doing this work long enough to know which are the fundamental timeless things that you should actually be investing in, and which are the fly by the night, come and go trends in marketing. And the reason I've built my life and my business around storytelling is because it's timeless, number one. It works to help you get clients and grow your business. And it actually takes the work and the heavy lifting of marketing off your plate. Nobody goes into practice work or therapy work because they love marketing. Nobody does that. But what happens is you follow your heart, you do the work that you love, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, not only am I managing clients, now I'm managing therapists, and I'm also responsible for filling their calendars and getting the word out there about my practice. And that's a whole nother part-time, if you're lucky, or another full-time job on your plate. So what I love about the work that I do is that it reduces your load. So StoryBrand, you've probably heard about it before. It's a book called How to Build a Story Brand by Donald Miller, who's written over 15 books. He's a brilliant writer. He began his career writing memoir and then kind of figured out the fundamentals of story. And he had this entrepreneurial side to him. And he ended up, once he became a business owner, essentially an entrepreneur, he decided to take those same core story, hero's journey components and apply them to his own business. And that's how the StoryBrand framework was born. And when I met Donald, this is back before the book was even written, but he was talking about the framework, and I knew immediately it was like the tool I needed to add to my toolbox to really kind of pour the gas on the fire of helping my clients reach their goals.
Yeah. I love it.
So
Right.
let me walk you through the framework.
Mhm.
So just high level, I'll give you like the 20 to 30-second overview so you kind of understand what story is made of. There are multiple components, and each component has to be incorporated into your messaging in order to tell a clear and compelling story. So every story, and this includes your brand story, begins with a hero that has a problem that they don't know how to solve. So they're out and about looking for somebody who can help them solve their problem. They're looking for a guide. They're looking for Yoda. They're looking for Mr. Miyagi. They're looking for someone who knows how to solve this problem. That hero is in a hole. They don't know how to get out of that hole. So in order to get out of the hole, they've got to find a guide who can help them do that. What I want you to write down if you're listening, or just really lock it into memory, is that you, as the therapist or the practice owner, are not the hero of your own story. The hero is actually the weakest character in this story. So you don't want to be the hero. You want to be the strongest character in the story. You want to be the guide. So the hero is really the central character in our story. And ironically, even though it's your business, you are not the hero. You are the guide. So your job as the guide is to give the hero a clear and simple plan that calls them to action. Heroes and humans don't ever want to jump blindly off of a cliff. If you if you tell them you want them to do something, they need to know like what to expect. And so the plan really reassures their nervous system that this is not going to be so hard. We're going to give them a clear and simple 3-step plan. And when they read the plan, they're going to realize this isn't that overwhelming or hard or what I thought it was going to be. In 3 steps, I can make it to my happy end result. And so we just really calm their nervous system and get them inspired to take action. We don't want to manipulate or force people to take action with our marketing or click on the buttons on our website. We want them to be inspired to do that. And we use story to cultivate resonance, connection, trust, all the 3 things that need to be present in order for somebody to come to your website and think, oh, I finally found the right person, or I finally found the right practice. And so the plan calls them to action. They click on your call to action if we're talking about your website. And then we really pull them through the story and keep them engaged every step of the way through stakes. Stakes just mean there's success to be had. Failure's possible too, but we're going to help them avoid failure. If there are no stakes, your story falls flat. It's not compelling. It's not interesting. When a movie doesn't have stakes, that's the movie where you get up after 10 minutes and you actually leave the theater because it's pointless. So all of these components I'm talking about, the hero, the problem, the guide, the plan, the call to action, the success, the failure, those are all like ingredients. If you're going to make a big pot of chili, each one of those is ingredients in that pot of chili. And so you can't pour a bottle of broth or a can of broth into your pot and go, here's the chili. It's not chili, it's broth. You have to have all these components present on your page and working together in your marketing to really allow your words to help you get clients and grow your practice.
This is great. So I'm just going to pick your brain for a second about my own practice. Hopefully this will help other practice owners as they're listening. But I have a group practice and we have, I don't know, 15 to 18 therapists, and we all do different things. And so we kind of have honed in a little on our ideal person, but as far as like the journey and what we give to them, it's a little different. And so how do you create that on a practice website for a group?
Yeah, so there are plenty of ways to do it. And one of the things that I do with my clients, I call it mining for gold. So your story is inside your head and your heart. It's already in there. It's just you've got a lot of ideas and to-dos, and so it's cluttered with all that. So first, what we do is mine for gold. We identify the gold that is your story and we clear away the clutter. So for you, we'd want to dig deeper underneath all those different categories that you serve. And typically there is a common theme that whether it's just I'm not feeling at ease in my own skin, or there's always something that we can dig that's underneath all of that. The other thing that you can do as a practice owner is just add a section on your website that says, these are the types of things that we do. I would really encourage you to have a section either on your homepage or on our therapist page, and have each therapist lean into the thing that they really want to help their clients with. I'm working with a massage therapist right now, so different industry, but same kind of issue in that he helps with prenatal massage, lymphatic drainage, and all these different types of massages. But underneath all that is the people that he works with are in chronic pain. So we went underneath all of that and found the common theme. And then we make sure to communicate the depth and the breadth of what he offers. Same thing for you. You wouldn't ignore that. Your core story components would really touch on what is that underneath everything, what is the kind of common theme. And this is the most important work that we do together. It takes some time at the beginning of our project, but I have yet to work with a business that we haven't been able to do that.
It certainly reminds me of branding, kind of going back and branding your business and coming up with those words and that ideal person and the reason that you're doing it. I
Yeah.
like what you said, mining for gold, because it is like that. Practice owners are so overwhelmed with caring for those clients. It's like they've forgotten the essence of it until they sit down and do that exercise. So I think that's so
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the therapists and coaches that I work with, this can be the hardest part because you're like, I said, what problem do you solve? And we begin there, and they solve a lot of different problems. And we solve a lot of problems. We wear a lot of hats. We're very capable people, which is so true. But you often need to, in order to be known, if you want to be known as the go-to for something, you really do need to pick one. I really encourage my clients to pick one thing to lean into. And it might be 80% of the people that you work with, this is really their struggle. And I it's a good way to think of it as like if you're on the freeway and you take an off ramp or you take an on ramp, for example, you need to on ramp your clients with one problem. Once they get in with you, yes, you can solve many more problems. For example, my on ramp is all about websites. Everybody I work with almost has website challenges, but once I on ramp them through that messaging, they realize I do so much more than website work. I can help you with your branding. I can help you with your social media. I can help you with your videos. But I don't overload people with all that information up front because our brains can't carry that much information. A good example of this is the Fitbit technology, the ring that, or not the Fitbit, but the Aura ring, the ring that you wear on your finger to analyze your sleep. So it's really known for really providing your sleep score and giving you all kinds of information about your REM sleep and light sleep. And the truth is, the Aura Ring is a Fitbit for your finger. It does all the things that a Fitbit does. And a Fitbit does everything. It tracks your
Yeah.
steps and your heart rate and all this stuff. But the Aura Ring branding or marketing knew that if they wanted to differentiate and they wanted to grow and be as successful as they are, they really had to lean into the problem of sleep. And that's what all their messaging is about. Of course, when you get a ring, you're like, oh my gosh, this does everything. I don't even need a Fitbit. It's everything. But they had to on-ramp all their people with one problem by becoming known for solving one problem, which was sleep quality.
Mm-hmm. Such a great example. And not that I asked Uriah what he thought, but I'm thinking about his work with you and all the things he shared and how that was something he really talked about was he took everything and made it one thing and how much success he's having now after changing that messaging. So I do think that's important. And I think entrepreneurs have so many things. Their websites are so confusing. Oftentimes I'm like, I don't even know what you sell or which one's for me because you have so many things, so then customers are confused and they end up leaving your site.
Well, yeah, and your clients are like, if they're coming to you for therapeutic support, often they're already overwhelmed. So if your website adds to their overwhelm, do you think that they're going to think, oh, I finally found the right person to work with? The way you make them feel on your website should be totally congruent with the way that you make them feel when they're in your office. And that kind of alignment is what really multiplies growth. But it also just that congruence is what's going to attract the right people to you. And then once they come in and meet you, it's just all going to feel really ethical,
Yeah.
aligned. Yeah,
I love that. And we're getting the right people in the door, right? Those are the
right.
ideal people that we want to work with, and they're going to have the most success. So I'm thinking about practice owners that I'm talking to now. I mean, a lot of them are struggling with marketing, AI, SEO, all the things. And then I love how you're like, no, let's simplify it. It's just about the story. But I can also see a practice owner saying, like, really? Like, if I just get my story right, that's going to do it? I don't think so. But I do think so. But I would love to hear from
Yeah.
you. Like, what would you say to a practice owner who's like, why would I spend all that money getting my story correct? I should spend it on a website or I should spend it on other marketing.
Well, I think the website is the most important part of your marketing, but it's the words on the website that actually motivate people to take that next step and want to work with you. For example, like who hasn't in the last 48 hours hopped on Amazon and considered buying a product? You didn't look at the product and buy it. You read the reviews, and based on the words that you read in those reviews, you clicked that buy button
Mhm.
or you didn't. And so the power of words, whether it's on your website or in person or in your emails, is the thing that emotionally gets people to move forward and want to work with you if they're in alignment with you.
I agree. Yeah, because they could get on ChatGPT. Okay, I'm going to go look at this therapist because that's the one it's recommending. I mean, most of them aren't just going to call. They're going to actually go to the website, even if AI is recommending it. But if you go to the website and it's confusing or it doesn't speak to you, you're
You're
going to go to
gone.
the next one. That's
You,
right.
you have 5 seconds when somebody gets to your website. You have 5 seconds to communicate three things. What do you do? How's it going to make their life better? And what do you want them to do next? When someone lands on your website, if you're nuanced or wordy or poetic or unclear, they are going to leave your website within about 5 seconds because their brain is actually signaling danger. This person is not clear. This website is going to cause my brain to burn calories to figure this out. And
Yeah.
our brains are constantly trying to conserve calories. And so that is why people don't stay on your page. I mean, you're very lucky to get somebody to your website. So you've got a captive audience as a visitor, and then you literally kick them out of your website because they can't see themselves in your story, or you're just overloading. Your website's become a dumping ground for ideas and words that it puts a big burden on the visitor. Rather than guiding them to a solution, you're burdening them by making them make all the decisions, overwhelming them with crowded upper navigation menus and small fonts and long paragraphs that people just won't read.
Yeah. I think you just spoke directly to those therapists. You're burdening people with your website. They're all gonna be like, oh no. I felt it. I was like, oh, I don't want to burden them. Okay,
Nobody
I actually
does.
really want to write down what you just said. They're on your website for 5 seconds and three things you have to do. What were those three things?
The three things within 5 seconds you have to communicate. What do you do? How's it going to make their life better? That's what they care about. Is this practice or therapist going to solve my problem? So, what do you do? How's it going to make their life better? And what do you want me to do next? Heroes are done figuring it out themselves. They've tried, they can't solve their own problem. They want you to tell them what to do. And as a guide, your job is to tell them what to do next. If they want to solve this problem, they have to take action. If they don't take action a year from now, that problem that they're struggling with is either going to be right where it is or worse. So it's in their best interest to take action, but it's your job as the business owner to craft a call to action that's compelling, motivating, inspiring, not learn more or meet the team or these really neutral, blah calls to action that don't motivate people to move.
Yes. What do you think about the websites that have multiple calls to action on the same page?
I'm going to go back to heroes are in a hole. They've tried to get out of that hole by themselves. They've tried lots of different things. When somebody lands on your website and it tells, and you have multiple calls to actions, it's like me coming up to you and going, "Hey, where is the nearest McDonald's?" And you say, "It's left." Well, you could go right and it's also straight, or it's also behind me. I'd be like, I'm going to go find somebody else. And
Yes.
that is exactly what you're doing when you're burdening the visitor to figure out what they need to do to solve their problem. And so you're showing up as a very weak guide who doesn't know how to guide your hero to success.
I greatly appreciate that. That's actually something I'm working on personally. It's like when you give too many options, when you listen to too many things, it's just like you're making it hard for people. And someone gave me that advice really recently and was like, yeah, but you didn't make it clear. And it actually made me more upset than all the options you gave me. I just wanted you to tell me the one option. And I was like, oh, I thought I was being like too much or, imposing, but people want that. And especially in therapy, like you said, they're already depressed, they're overwhelmed when they come to your website. When they come in our offices, I tell my therapists all the time, you are the professional in the room. Don't ask them when they want to come back. You tell them when they're coming back. You tell them the treatment recommendations. People want just here. This is it. Exactly
Right.
what you're saying.
Right.
So,
Right.
as
Yeah.
therapists, we already are ingrained to do that. Why are we doing it in our offices and not on our marketing?
100%. Great point.
Yeah. You have a toolkit for our listeners. Is that correct?
I do. Yeah. At my website, Red Door Stories, that's where you can find out everything about me. You can book a call with me. We can look at your story, the story that you're telling on your website on the call, and I can give you some tips, identify what parts of the story you need to incorporate, what you're doing well already. So go ahead and go to my website and book a call with me. On the website, there is also a free guide, which is a 10-minute training. I teach you the 5 StoryBrand sound bites that you need to grow your practice and get more clients. And it's a quick 10-minute training. It'll go deeper into some of the StoryBrand work that we talked about today, and it will forever change the way you talk about your business.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a pleasure. I'm looking forward to now going to my website and thinking about some things. So, really appreciate you taking the time to be on our show today and providing so much value to our listeners.
Whitney, it was a joy. Thank you for having me.